Hey everyone, back again with another dungeon speedrun breakdown. Today we're going to be looking at a much more recent run in Spire of the Watcher in 406, completed by Tall Sandy, Troy, and Vortex, three of my Ron teammates, so shout out to these guys. Yeah, this one's a lot more recent. This one was actually just run last season in Revenant, so you're going to see some, heavy GL usage with the GL artifact mod. You're going to see some tonics that are being popped, so, pretty, a little bit of a throwback for some of you that were playing last season, compared to Duality, which was like a year and a half ago. So this is a much more recent run. You're going to see a lot more like modern tech, modern routing in this. So yeah, pretty excited to kind of show this one off to you guys. And, this dungeon kind of reminds me of Ron in a way. It's very, just execution based, right? The encounters are very straightforward. There's little to no RNG. I mean, you have a little bit of RNG when it comes to Persys because of, there's 4 different node paths, but these players have prepared for every single kind of RNG they can have. They know exactly what nodes to shoot, so it almost doesn't make a difference to them. And obviously the nodes in the entrance encounter and then Ascent and then Akelous, they're always going to be the same, right? You always have to shoot the same number of nodes, same players can shoot them. So in a way, it's like Ron, right? Ron, for the most part, there's a little bit of RNG in terms of like where the nodes go, and it's a little bit more convoluted because it's a raid and there's damage phases and stuff, but they're kind of similar in the way that, they're just very fast, very straightforward encounters, right? So speedrunners generally like Ron, and for the same reason, the same speedrunners generally like Spire, right? It's a good dungeon to run, and that's why it's so short. It's a classic 3 encounter structure, but it's only 4 minutes, right? So pretty fast stuff. And for reference, this is one of the best dungeon runs on the site, if not the best dungeon run on the site. This run is 3 seconds off Sum of Best, right? Which was, I suppose, like a 403. So pretty impressive for a 4-minute run, right? Pretty close to Sum of Best. And yeah, with that out of the way, enough yapping from me. Let's go ahead and start by looking at Troy's POV over here. My very good friend, Troy. And like I like to do with these dungeon speedrun breakdowns, let's go ahead and start with class comp, okay? So Spire, being the very simple dungeon that it is, has a very simple class comp. It's just going to be 3 Hunter. It's just going to be 3 Hunter. And the reason for that is because Hunters are the only class with the ability to have a very fast skate right off the rip. Of course, I'm talking about shatter skating. And the reason why this is so nice is because you need someone to get to the entrance encounter quickly, which is over here. And then you need someone, or 2 people rather, in this case, it's going to be Tall Sandy and Vortex. You want them to be able to skip to the first encounter as quickly as possible. And these 2 skip routes are only really possible if you're on a Hunter, right? You can be on a Warlock, but you're going to be a lot slower, and being on a Warlock or a Titan in the subsequent encounters does not really save any time. So having these players be on Hunter is the best. They're going to stay on Hunter for the whole 4-minute run. None of them are character swapping, and so this is a very, very straightforward dungeon run with a very, very straightforward class comp. So let's go ahead and get started with Troy. And at the go call, he is just going to go forward a little bit and line off of this tire. Vortex is going to line immediately. And something you'll notice about this run is that this run is gated to skip, right? So the people getting to the first encounter are the ones that matter, which is why Vortex is given this priority position in the line order. You have Vortex, and then you have, of course, Troy, and then you have Sandy. So Vortex is making his way to the Ascent encounter to be the one that kills the Minotaur quickly. Sandy's going to get there. The Minotaur's already going to be dead, so it's okay if he's lagging behind a little bit, but Vortex needs priority here because unless Troy is really, really slow on entrance, you're always going to be gated to skip. Troy is going to complete entrance in like 55 seconds or so, and, skip is generally going to be above a minute, right? So unless Troy's really, really slow, again, his role matters here, obviously, but it's not gated to him. So you'll notice here he has on 2 weapons that are a little interesting. He has Pardon Our Dust on, which is a lightweight GL, and then he also has a Duskfield grenade equipped. And the reason for this is because there is that outer node that's in the caves all the way out to the left, and that would be really annoying to go out of your way and try to shoot manually with like a trace or something, right? So the reason why Troy is doing this is because he's going to throw a Duskfield with a very specific lineup. It's going to land on that node and start ticking it. And then when Troy gets Arctrician, that's actually going to trigger the node and turn it on. Okay, so you're going to see in this run that they're going to use a lot of unique weapons and unique tools in the runner's toolkit to trigger these nodes in non-standard ways. Obviously, they're going to prefer the trace in most cases, but they're going to be using maybe some unique weapons to assist them with some weirdly placed nodes. Like this one, for example, he uses Pardon Our Dust, bounces it. You see the tick on his crosshair. He successfully activates it. And then here, he's just going to go ahead and finish the left side. This bothersome harpy is blocking him. A couple more nodes on the left side, 1 more on the right side. He's going to finish 3 of these, and then he's going to finish up left side here. And then boom, he's already done. We're like 54 seconds into the run. I mean, without the go call, it's like 52 seconds. So again, pretty fast entrance. Skip is not going to happen in 52 seconds, that's for sure. And Troy is just going to blink down here for fun. You know, he's kind of just having some fun waiting for his teammates to pull him. If he could get to the load zone that the Ascent encounter is taking place, his joining allies would be a tiny bit slower, but I do not think he is actually able to get there in time, so he's just going to chill, he's going to get joining, and he's going to wait for his teammates to pull him to Ascent. Okay, so I mentioned a skip. What's actually going on the skip? That is a good question. Let's go ahead and get looking at Vortex's POV to understand what's going on. So Vortex is leading the charge here. He's going to go ahead and line right away. And in previous iterations of Spire strategies, you would actually have hunters go over this wall over here. Let me actually change to a red pen here. You would have hunters go over this wall here, and they would slip into this crack, and then there would be like a hole in the floor that you could go through to go oob down to the next encounter. However, it was discovered that you can kind of just line and do the normal entrance route and land over here, and you can actually just blink through the death barriers down here, which is a lot faster than if you were to try to go through that oob hole, which is a lot more annoying. So that's why Vortex is out here with his wonderful little cauldron helmet here. And Vortex, what he's doing now is, of course, he swapped to Prismatic to have access to blink, but then he shatter dives, and then he double swaps his subclass through something called dive swapping. We talked about this in the pit run, which basically allows you to keep the immediate vertical drop momentum from a shatter dive, but it allows you to keep the speed and not have this slow animation. And allows you to not have to be, shatter diving on the floor. It'll just land you on the floor normally, but it keeps that downward speed. So you see here, he drops very, very quickly, faster than if you were to fall like just normally. Allows him to drop straight down as well. And then now when he lands on the stasis subclass, instead of being on prismatic because he double swapped, he can shatter line instantly, right? So pretty good stuff here. And he hits the, I think this is the reactor firewall load zone. And he hits it in a specific spot that allows him to kind of be inbounds on this transition. He blink swaps one more time in order to get into this elevator, and then he blinks again. Something you can do on any sort of subclass with blink is blink has an internal cooldown, but if you double swap your subclass back to the subclass with blink on it, it immediately refreshes the cooldown. So you're going to see them do this a lot in the elevators. This elevator is the longest one in this dungeon, so he's going to be able to blink swap like twice here, or double swap I should say twice here. Pretty good pace from Vortex, pretty good skip. He's going to go ahead and mountaintop up, and he is going to right click through this hole so that it drops him right away. And now instead of going the normal route, he's going to pick an alternate route here with mountaintop, which is a bit faster than just going the normal way. And he's going to line to where the Minotaur is spawning. And now he's going to left click him twice, and boom, first encounter has started. So Troy has finished skip behind. He's getting joining allies right now. Sandy is also taking that alternate route, and he's picking up that Arctrician pool. Vortex is going to finish this side, and then Sandy's going to finish the other side. They're both going to wrap around to each other and meet each other here. So boom, boom, nodes being completed. One more node on this side. Vortex is going to finish his side slightly faster, so he just shoots both of those, and the first floor is already done. Again, a blink swap and a swap back here. Vortex is done. He's going to go ahead and shoot both of these starting nodes over here, and then he's going to shoot some more of these outer nodes. Again, you'll see these guys use stuff like Ignition Code and Mountaintop and Pardon Our Dust to actually hit nodes that are kind of out of vision or while they're moving. So these guys know all the perfect little geometry of the walls and pillars in this encounter to be able to know when to shoot these things. Vortex switches to Mountaintop now. He's going to do one more floor. And of course, they are just carrying Arctrician from floor to floor. It's not even close. They have 40 plus seconds of Arctrician almost all of the time. He's going to hit a nice little shatter skate bounce up to the next encounter. And you can't actually perma the Akelous encounter anymore. I'm sure if you guys have done solo and stuff like that, you were probably aware that you used to be able to perma this encounter. That perma is gone, but you can still kind of sword the flag to the middle, and the flag will disappear after a couple seconds. So, Vortex is able to basically start the encounter very quickly and also get a rally flag down instead of, placing the flag, having everyone rally, and then starting the encounter, right? So it's a little bit nicer in that regard. Again, carrying the Arctrician from the first encounter. A lot of people are used to, even solo, carrying Arctrician between floors in first encounter, but not many people are going to carry Arctrician to the actual second encounter. So that is what they're doing here. Vortex is doing his pre-assigned nodes, going to shoot one of them with his GL. And now he switches to a solar/stasis surge loadout. He's going to go ahead and make an orb for himself as well as get radiant. And then him and Sandy are going to use trace rifles to destroy most of these eyes. And then the reason why they wait on this final eye here is because bosses, when you flinch them in D2, like kind of like by breaking them, basically changing their animation state and doing like a little bit of a soft flinch, that's like the prime time to try to get a Goldie chunk, right? So for whatever reason, right, if a boss flinches and you shoot Goldie, I don't know why, but I think the boss like duplicates its hitbox for like a couple frames from the normal state to the flinch state. So when they flinch backward, the Goldie kind of over penetrates and hits both hitboxes. That's my theory at least. And you'll see here in just a second, when they knife the eye and they both instantly shoot their Goldie, it does about 40% of the boss's health bar, which this boss is, if as far as I can tell, not 30% debuffed, right? It's just a snare bomb. It's just a weaken. So doing this much is crazy. This is around 2.4 million health. They don't have limit break this season, which means their Goldie should be doing sub 2 million. A Goldie that has Facet of Courage and also has Radiant and also has a 30% debuff does around 1 million damage with base Goldie chunking, right? Now this Goldie chunk is like the Antarctica server chunk, right? They did 2.4 million across 2 people with a 15% debuff. So yeah, that's a pretty crazy chunk. And then you'll see here they do Still Hunt. They do Cascade Points Surrounded GL because they have some ads nearby. Again, they re-trigger Cascade and then boom. And because the kill is so damn good, Vortex realizes, oh, I can just swap here and get ready to hit the checkpoint under the Akelous encounter, and Sandy will finish off the boss with Still Hunt because that chunk was so good, right? And that's actually a big obstacle to people running Spire this season, is because that chunk was so crazy and because the kill is so good with the heavy GLs, you know, this is pre-nerf rapid fire heavy GLs with VS Chill Inhibitor with Cascade Surrounded, it's kind of difficult to match that kill and be able to leave this early. Having someone leave this early is kind of important because the second Akelous dies, this hatch in the floor actually immediately opens. There's no like animation for waiting or anything. So if you have someone waiting here right as the boss dies, it's great because they can go down, and there's a checkpoint down here that actually needs to be hit before the skipper, which you might have noticed there's only 2 people killing the boss, can actually start Persys. So you'll see here Vortex is making his way down, you know, mountain topping down here. He's going to make his way around this little hole, drop down, and right around here is the checkpoint. You'll see the objective updates, and then he's going to die and be wipe pulled to Persys. Okay, so we're going to visit our friend Sandy now. Tandy, the third POV who we have not watched yet. And I will just give you an example of some of the issues that come from running this dungeon. I don't know if they're present this season, but during Revenant, apparently there were some server issues for Spire that caused a lot of first floor ghosting. I believe he has some at the end of his run, actually. Little montage here that I can kind of show off maybe. So this is exactly what I'm talking about here. You can see that Sandy, despite the fact that he has Arctrition on his screen clearly, and he gets hit markers on both these nodes, and you can see that he's shooting them directly, he actually just doesn't activate the nodes. My theory is because you've started an encounter so quickly after hitting the asset load here, maybe there's some sort of desync, and Sandy's instance is not realizing that he has Arctrition, and so it stops him from interacting with the nodes or something like that. But it could also just be Destiny servers being Destiny servers. So now we're going to go back to our friend Troy. And the reason we're going to go back to our friend Troy here is because he actually does the skip to Persys. So after, the Ascent encounter is over, Troy is going to make his way over here. He has Arctrition. He's pre-planning out shooting these nodes for his teammates as soon as they open. He's going to help with a bunch of nodes. He's going to close 2 of these fuel rods actually, and then he's going to leave on skip. So this skip is a little bit difficult to learn because there are a bunch of death barriers that separate all of these individual floors while you're going back down to the oob area. And so Troy kind of has to memorize these blink timings. He's using these landmarks that he's watching on the side here in order to kind of blink at a very, very specific time. And he gets past those death barriers. He's going to mountain top himself up into this hole, blink up into this crack over here that you normally need to slide into. And then he's going to make his way into this gleaming light shaft here. And he's going to make his way down. He's going to double swap subclasses again to regain the ability to jump. And then he's going to mantle on this beam. This beam is a checkpoint that's required to kind of spawn in Persys and actually start that encounter. So they're able to skip the nodes in between Akelous and Persys by doing this. They hit that top checkpoint like we talked about. There you go. He checks on his tonic, make sure it's ticking for that extra GL damage. And now they've wipe pulled to Persys. Persys, you know, like we've said in the past, wipe pulls in dungeons are only 7 seconds long, whereas in raids they're like 17 or 18 seconds long. So being able to wipe pull is not a big deal in dungeons, and obviously having all of your teammates get joining and not have any ammo for Persys is going to affect the kill negatively for sure. So that's why they go ahead and wipe pull. And so there's a couple cool things that Troy's role does here. You'll see there's a temp flag placed, which we'll talk about again when we go back to Tall Sandy. But he's going to use Horseman to kill this Angelic. And then he's going to create a Strand clone in order to trick Persys. Persys is a little dumb. He's going to trick Persys into shooting the Strand clone. He throws a Moth Keeper's kind of grenade at him so that he gets the Overshield Moth on top of him to help him survive a little bit here. And this allows Troy to actually get inside the middle of the room the second the door opens, which means he has access to more of the nodes from his teammates. They're going to give him the call in terms of what's open and what needs to be shot, and he's just going to complete both of these circuits. He's going to bait the boss into the room. Once the boss is in, he's going to go ahead and leave. And you'll see that he actually, as the door is about to close, pre-places a tether here. So one of the big things with Persys is that he's one of the only bosses in the game where you can't have any physical access to the boss until right when damage starts. So pre-placing a tether here is smart so that he doesn't have to go through the tether animation as soon as the door opens. That's precious damage time that he could be using to actually just shoot the boss. So this tether will trigger. Tether lasts on the ground for 30 seconds until it, sees a target. And as soon as the boss walks forward, this will trap the boss and make sure he's 30% debuffed. And Troy is also going to use his Moth Keepers to trigger the blind effect, the arc blind keyword, on the boss here, because this season had a artifact mod called arc compounding, where you do 15% additional arc damage to arc debuffed enemies. In this case, blind is an arc debuff, so their bittersweets are going to do a lot more damage. So here, he triggers a node. Troy is now going to switch to his damage loadout, and he is going to pre-proc bait on this Minotaur so that he can just start shooting the boss right away. So you'll see here, he pre-procs bait, waiting for the boss, explodes, the tether hits him immediately, throws his Moth Keeper, boom. Dodge reload, his teammates are blade barraging, and the boss is dead. And Spire the Watcher's over. Pretty straightforward, pretty fast stuff. So the last POV we're going to look at is Tall Sandy, Mr. Tandy, and going to show off a couple things at Persys here. The first thing is going to be a temp flag, which you'll see Tall Sandy swords forward. He's going to place his flag, and then he's going to swap to his weapons. And you're going to see he swaps to his bait and switch, heavy GL. You'll see here he starts to make some orbs for Feast of Light for him and Vortex, who are both on Blade Barrage as opposed to Tether. And I think this is maybe the best example in the run of just having really, really clean node mechanics, just immediately knowing what nodes to shoot the second the callouts are made. You'll see here, he has in his peripheral vision, he sees that node open, and he's just boom, 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 and completed, done, right? So these guys, they've just memorized exactly what they need to shoot at what time. It's pretty much, just a perfect recall here. Good stuff from them. And then in terms of damage, Sandy is just on Lumina. He's also going to pre-proc bait off of this Minotaur here. See here, he's just going to, start shooting. Cool thing with bait, by the way, is that you can shoot one weapon, and then you can shoot your second weapon, and your second weapon will carry the kind of bait property for your third weapon that has bait on it, and you just repeatedly shoot your second weapon. So here, you could just keep shooting Lumina, or you could just keep shooting Trace, and it would keep reprocking like the bait timer for the bait requirements. Right here, you're going to see a dodge cancel into a Blade Barrage. One more mag of Heavy GL, and the boss should be dead. And that's it. That's Spire the Watcher in 406. So, bit of a shorter breakdown today, but Spire is very straightforward, right? In terms of doing the encounters, you're just kind of shooting the nodes really quickly with each other. And, there's obviously some skips and stuff going on, but there's no crazy tech to like hit the nodes all at the same time or anything like that. Obviously there's like some stuff you can do with Winter's Wrath, but that is an insane amount of time lost to have like a Stasis Warlock in your run. And these guys are, plenty capable of hitting the nodes very, very quickly without anything like that. Anyways, so yeah, pretty cool stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. I believe our next dungeon is going to be Ghost of the Deep. So yeah, we'll get to that when we get to that, and I'll see you guys around. Thanks for watching.